you have to choose a name. What type of a name should we choose? Well, you need to bear in mind that on the Day of Judgment, Allah is going to use the same name to refer to the child. So you have to have a name that's good. You're going to be proud of that name in front of Allah. That's what I would look at first. Secondly, who are my role models, my heroes? Who are those who have shown the obedience of Allah? Who are those who I really feel this child needs to emulate? That's not a bad starting point. Does the name have to be Arabic? Well, I can tell you most of the scholars say it's preferred to be Arabic, but it's not necessary. It's not compulsory. You could have an English name, you could have a Farsi Persian name, you could have an Urdu name, you could have a name of another language, subhanallah. You could, for as long as it has a beautiful meaning. But it is still preferred to have an Arabic name. Now, one might say, why the preference? Well, I tell you, if you give your child a beautiful Arabic name, one of the companions of the Prophet, or sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or one of the prophets, or according to a lot of the scholars, even one of the angels. Some scholars say you shouldn't keep names of angels, but it is permissible. I adopt the opinion that says it's allowed. So Jibril or Mikael, I know people with these names, subhanallah. For as long as it's not, the angel of death, I think it's fine. May Allah grant us ease. May Allah open our doors. But if it's, Jibril, Mikael, etc., I think it's good. It's okay. So if you have one of those names, subhanallah, with a good meaning, and say, for example, you've kept your child's name, let me just say something. For example, Talha. Now, we have a little bit of an issue when it comes to choosing these names, because I live in an environment. In that environment, certain languages are spoken. I need to bear in mind, will these people pronounce that particular name? That's a proper pointer. So I told you, look at the heroes, look at so-and-so, the Arabic language perhaps, but make sure that the name is not a name that will not be pronounced properly by those who are going to be calling the person. Talha is a beautiful name. You will have a lot of people who may be able to use that name and say it. I would, you would, a lot of people would. Talha is the proper pronunciation. Hamza is the proper pronunciation. Hamza. It starts with a ha, it has a mim, zai, and it has a ta marbuta at the end. So Hamza. In fact, a ha at the end, right? So Hamza. Now, people are going to say Hamza, right? I'm sure you've heard that. People are going to say Talha. Some might say Tala. I've heard people say Tala in the UK. And then, subhanallah, it's up to you to correct them all the time. So I would advise you to choose a name that in your environment, those who are going to call the child would not mispronounce it in a way that the meaning is going to change. If I say Tala, for example, who knows what it means, subhanallah, but correct them. And inshallah, it won't be such a bad meaning, even if they had to mispronounce. But sometimes the meanings become terrible. And secondly, another thing you must bear in mind is, don't ever use a name in a language that's not the predominant language in your midst, and it sounds so bad if it were to be within your language. There are names like that. So sometimes, people have swear words in one language, and in the Arabic language it's not a swear word, but you name your child that, and that child is going to be demonized throughout his or her life because you didn't think. And that's why when you are choosing a name, say it a few times, say it many times. Ask people to say it, your family members to say the name. Listen to it carefully and make sure that you're okay with it. Make sure it doesn't sound like a bad word in another language. Subhanallah. Even organizations, I've come across organizations that have named themselves such names that if they were to be looked at in English, it would be a huge swear word. A'udhu billah. But may Allah protect us. They didn't think. They thought, well, we're supposed to be having this Arabic name, but you're living in an English environment. The children at school are going to be swearing all day, calling your child. Come on. You owe the child a good name. Come on. So it's very difficult. And it's really something you need to consider. It's not just pick it up and that's it. No. You need to consider, especially when they are exotic names of today. Think very carefully. So keep a simple name, in a way that people would not mispronounce it, number one, badly mispronounce. And secondly is, it wouldn't have a wrong meaning in another language if you knew those languages, especially predominant language. Give you an example. The name Ariana or Aryan, for example, a beautiful name. It's Persian. It's Persian. But if you were to translate it into Arabic, it has a very bad meaning. So Aryan would mean a person who's nude. Ariana would mean the same. That's just an example. And there are so many other names. Now, yes, while it is a good name, you will have to keep correcting people, especially if you're living in the Middle East. That's what it is. If you're living in the Middle East, people are they speak Arabic, they will get a shock, The name Nada is a beautiful name, but in some languages, it may have a bad meaning. Subhanallah. So if you're living in an environment where they don't speak that language, where it has a bad meaning, it's fine, fair and good. But if it does, please don't penalize your child. And these are just simple examples. Okay? Now, my brothers and sisters, a name should have a good meaning. The Prophet ﷺ, did he change names of people who converted or reverted to Islam? The answer is no. Besides, very few if they had terrible meanings. He didn't change anyone's.